Welcome back to CoreCast something or other, episode 9, probably 8, maybe. Depends on how way you're counting. We've been off for a while.
I want to say it's like publicly 7.
Publicly was the
because we didn't do one for Core Lore.
Was YHack 7?
YHack was 6, I think.
Okay. Yeah, we missed Core Lore because we had planned to do one for YHack, and then we did that, and then we planned to do one for RPI, and then we missed that because we were in different places.
Oop.
And then, bad Gabe.
I'm turning it off.
And then we planned to do one for Core Lore, and then we didn't do that. And then we planned to do one the next weekend, and then we kind of did that. Next weekend was Thanksgiving break, and then we planned to do one the next week, last weekend, and we kind of did that, but not really. And now we're here.
And now we're here, yeah.
The long journey, the 6-week hiatus. We're back. For the 2 people that care. Alright, so, after that long introduction, I'm Taylor, of course.
I'm here as well.
Gabe's here.
Yes.
And we have our 2 guests today.
Hello, I'm Michael.
Hi, I'm Des.
That's Mike and Cass. They're here.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, you want to introduce yourselves a little bit?
Not really.
Nope. Cass is going to stay in the background.
I don't know. Hi, I'm Michael. I'm a computer science major, but I might be a linguistics major.
Okay.
So that's a thing. I like languages and vaguely coding, philosophy and stuff. Yeah.
You're kind of you've kind of got, your hair is kind of well known around the floor.
Strange affect,
For historical reasons, I don't know.
Yeah, some Jesus hair.
You guys got a little bit of that going on. I don't know. If CoreCast is supposed to be for historical reasons, then we could go deeper into his biography, I guess. But I think that's good enough for now. Okay, so Gabe.
Yes.
Topic of the week.
Oh no.
Topic, you ready?
So you told me that you had a topic last week, maybe?
I did, yeah.
And then we did a quote-unquote CoreCast, but I don't know if
off the
that'll
books.
ever see the light of day. So, okay. So I've been waiting a week, bated breath, to hear this topic.
This topic is, I'm honestly not sure. I don't know. I originally had a topic because last week we were going to do a bunch of people together. So I was going to come up with something very interesting, kind of technical, but also had ethical implications, kind of like what we did with the Bulgarian episode. And
episode 2.
And now I don't know. We'll see about this. But my original topic, and we can talk about this, was last week. The Swift programming language was open sourced.
Oh, yeah, I did read about that.
Which is, of course, kind of a bold move for Apple, I think. Not really bold, but unusual, I guess, for Apple. And I don't know if I'm kind of a bit of a programming language nut. I like programming languages, so that was kind of interesting to me. And I figured to bring it up and talk a little bit about open source
languages.
And
I don't really understand what that means.
Well, it means that you can see the source for the compiler and everything that runs it and interprets the code. Whereas otherwise, it's a proprietary language, and you have to buy an Apple product and get a special license. With the when you install Swift, you still have to sign the license, end user license agreement for Apple to use the Swift programming language compiler, which I think is really strange, because it's kind of unusual. But as of late, a bunch of things have been open sourcing that we never really thought would get open sourced. Microsoft has been open sourcing things, which is weird for them.
I think, there was a person who said, they're Microsoft is the new Google, or something like that.
Yeah, really?
Yeah. Where, because they're just, releasing things out now. And, people are trying to do different things because they realize that, if you don't do new things, you'll, just fail.
You become irrelevant.
Yeah, you'll become Twitter.
Yeah.
And so they're we can make stuff open source because, a lot of people want that now.
Yeah, it's a general trend towards, this is what, people actually want.
Yeah.
Let's not try to trick them anymore. Just give them things that are useful.
Yeah, I think Microsoft is trying to play catch-up a lot with what's going on. I think Apple is starting to try to do that with themselves, because they were hot stuff, 8 years ago now?
Yeah, well,
almost.
it didn't matter back then if it was open source, because
Right, 'cause
nothing
they were
was.
new.
Yeah.
But now everything is, so like if you're not, then you're like the only one.
It's strange, yeah.
It's like charging for an OS. Like, Microsoft is the only one that does that now?
Yeah.
And like it's like only half they do it because like
Yeah.
if you have Windows 7,
Windows
you can
10
just
did.
update.
Yeah, now because with Windows 10 they gave, free updates, which is weird for them.
Yeah.
They've never done that before. Whereas
they don't have a
Apple
choice.
always had free updates, as far as I'm aware, at least in the past recent years. And of course, Linux is free and open source for
Although-
anyone to use.
This morning, I did have a Windows update that uninstalled programs from my computer.
Yeah, how about that?
Really?
Yeah.
It just decided.
And I was like, oh, like, am I the only one? No, this is like a thing that has happened in the past with updates. And it's like, well, I wasn't going to use the program anyway, but like,
Like, why'd you decide you could have
it was
that?
just like, this is incompatible with Windows, blah, blah, blah. And I've heard, like, people just reinstall it and it works fine. So I don't know, like,
What the-
how that even...
That brings up some interesting ethics about software, which is like if there's this old question. There's like this question that goes around that if you were to write, if you knew about a security flaw that you could use to help patch up other security flaws in a person's computer, should you write a piece of malware essentially that when it goes around would go into someone else's computer and patch up all their security holes, any backdoors and
Yeah.
any problems in it? Like, what's the answer to that question? Should you do it or should you not?
Well, the question is like, do I kill like an 80-year-old woman to save a 5-year-old girl? It's like, it's bad because you're still killing someone, but at the same time, like, you're doing good stuff. So it's really just up to like you as a person. Like, I wouldn't do it, but like, I'm sure people do it and still sleep at night.
I mean, that gets into... I was told, actually, when the first time this question was posed to me, I was actually told the answer, what the answer is. I was specifically told that the answer is no, you shouldn't do it. Because...
Oh, there we go. We're
Yeah,
talking.
I didn't know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's good.
Yeah, so easy when someone tells you the answer, right? But I still think it's an interesting question. So, like, do you go around doing that? Like, because that's I would argue that's an instance of Windows doing that, being like, oh, there's these programs that
Yeah.
aren't compatible. We're just going to get rid of them.
You don't want these.
Like, you don't want these. How does Microsoft know that you don't want these?
The thing is, like, I wouldn't mind if you logged in. It would be like, hey,
Yeah.
these 5 programs you are not compatible with Windows any longer. Like, you should uninstall them. Click here, and we'll do that for you.
Yeah. That's
And then you're like,
part.
no. It's like
Right.
I like logged on this. I turned on my computer, right? Like, I turned it off last night. I didn't say anything about updates. Turned it on this morning. I get like a cutscene that's like, we're installing updates, like bringing the new stuff to you right now. And then I log in. It didn't even say anything. It was like, all your files are right here. And then just in the bottom right-hand corner, the notification popped up. Specky has been uninstalled for compatibility reasons. And I was like, that's interesting.
Okay.
So like, am I okay that they did it? Yeah, whatever. I don't really care. But then, like, where do they stop? Because they could uninstall anything.
Yeah.
And what if I had like paid for something and they uninstall it? Like, I own like Adobe Creative Cloud, and then they just install it. And it's like, now I can never get that back.
And it's just the shady part is like, why would they not want to tell you? Like, why would that not be the first thing they do? It'd be like, hey, maybe uninstall this, or say like, we're working on an update to uninstall this. Like, what is the point of just doing it without telling you, without like getting your permission, without asking why?
I mean, the thing is also like, as a technical person, I could physically uninstall the program if they told me to.
Yeah.
But some people, like, one, won't notice that it's been uninstalled.
Right.
Two,
That's
won't have most of these programs in the first place. And 3, will be like, oh, this is, like, great. Like, I don't even have to do anything anymore. Like, it'll just do it for me.
I guess, yeah. But it's just strange that they choose not to tell you.
I just want to be able to, like, go into my options and be like, don't uninstall things for me.
Yeah.
That's all I want. I don't mind that they do it.
And
But
I think they
I
must
just need, like,
realize
to
this is,
ask.
They must realize this is like definitely within like strange areas. Like, oh, we're gonna uninstall programs for them. Like, they have to be a little bit more reasonable for the customers. Like, obviously I don't want them poking around in my shit, like, turning stuff off. Like, that should be an option.
It's like, we noticed there's some nudity in some of these photos, so we've decided to just delete them off your computer.
Like,
it's like, are you kidding me? Like,
thanks, Microsoft.
Yeah. Like,
doing things without asking. So that's the problem, though, is that, like, this is purely hyperbolic and also completely, like, you know, what's the word? Completely, like, hypothetical. But what if it gets to the point where, like, you install some competing software on your Windows
I didn't
computer?
even do that. You install, like, iTunes, and it just continuously uninstalls it. Like,
and it just, like, install Google Drive, and Microsoft wants OneDrive to be the thing that you use. And it's like, Google Drive has some, like, incompatibility with
That's, like,
Windows.
the point where, like, I'm done. Like,
you know, we're gonna uninstall it for you.
And they could do shady things.
Use OneDrive. Like,
they totally could. And there's nothing stopping
easy.
them, because
And no one would know.
they have, like,
what?
half the market share, if not more.
I mean, if they did that, then, I mean, I'd get really mad, but I already don't use Microsoft Windows machines anymore, so, like, there's nothing
I would just, like,
do.
not phase it out, but I would just slowly not use it for anything.
Yeah.
Like, I would use it for, like, one thing, and then, like, things that I could only do on Windows.
But the average person wouldn't care. They'd be like, well, okay, I should do this now. I've got to use Microsoft.
OneDrive.
Yeah, like, I guess I'll just use OneDrive. It's
I
already
mean,
built in.
that's what they did to get powerful in the first place. They just created a bunch of software that, like, everyone used, and then everything else. That was the whole Netscape thing back in the 90s, was they decided, no, that Microsoft is getting too powerful, you know. That was a whole part of that was a big thing. I don't remember the exact details, of course, because I wasn't around for when it happened. But, no, yeah, when Microsoft just sort of, people were afraid Microsoft was just going to consume all of the technology, like, industry, and, Bill Gates actually had to invest in Apple to kind of get people to like, be like, alright, so they're not going to just
I mean, but the thing is, like,
everything.
you gotta think, if I give you $1 billion, and that's a 50th of my, like, net worth, like, I could just be willing to throw it away. So it's like, I don't know. I think
Yeah, to him it wasn't much.
it's not something that most people are going to care about, but, like, I got into an argument over the summer with another person on our floor, Shane, about this, because he was, like, talking, when they first announced all these features that are coming to Windows 10, where they, like, will search through your files and index things and blah, 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 and, like, you can't, if you want to store a Wi-Fi password, if you don't want them to store your Wi-Fi password, you have to name your router, like, __ opt out. Like, it's, like, ridiculous. And I was like, oh, like, don't worry about it. It's, like, not a slippery slope. He's like, but you don't understand. We're past the slippery slope. Because they already have everyone's information, because everyone already uses Windows.
Yeah.
And, like, they have to decide right now, are they going to be evil or are they not? And then, like, figure it out. Because if they decide to be evil, like, they need to just get it over with.
They can go that route, that's fine, but, like, you have to not be in the middle.
Yeah, like, I want to know, am I going to use this operating system, or am I just not going to use it?
Yeah, should I avoid it?
But, like, right now, I'm on the fence, because, like, I don't mind using it, because it's useful to me.
Yeah. And it's definitely in a gray area, where it's
But
like,
it's
we're
like,
not
yeah.
evil, but, like, the potential.
I mean, think about any other tech company as well. I mean, for a while, that's been my opinion about Apple for forever, is that they've always been in the gray zone of, like, they're not explicitly evil, but at any moment they could decide to just gather enough people and then lock everything down even more than they already do. And same thing with Google, even though I feel like, you know, for a long time of my life, I was like, oh, Google's, like, perfect, right?
Wow.
They don't have any flaws or stuff. They're great, awesome. They're not, like, their code of ethics says, don't be evil.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? And then, like, but, like, if you think about it, at any moment, they could just decide, nah, and lock everything down, and I'd be trapped because I need Google for everything.
They have a lot of power, yeah.
I mean, yeah. Facebook, too, like, they choose not to be evil, but, like, they could.
I don't think Facebook has that much power. As much as people think.
What, 1 billion users?
But
They don't
But,
have,
like,
the power to be evil.
How many users does Google have? 6 billion? Like, the thing is, so Joe and I were talking about this, but, like, disclosure, like, Joe has worked at Facebook and will work at Facebook.
Right.
So of course he's like very like, why is everyone hating on Facebook all the time? But he made a good point that's like, people see like the Facebook guy coming around and like he comes into their house and they're like, here's my like photo album, like please like put on your website, and he's like puts it in his bag and like walking to his car, and like people are egging him like as he's walking outside, and yet like, you know, then like you're like, oh geez, like I hope that doesn't happen to me. And then you take your trash out, put it on the sidewalk, and like the Google garbage truck comes over, and everyone's like, oh man, it's the Google guy, like you're the best. And he just like takes the trash, puts it in the truck, and like drives off. And then like at the processing facility, they take all your trash and like meticulously look through it. Whereas like the Facebook guy just like puts it in the machine and like doesn't even take a look.
Yeah, no, it's
And so like to me, maybe that is a good analogy. I don't know. That's how I feel about Facebook. I've never felt like they were evil. People gotta make money, so ads are fine. And like, if I have to sell like the things that I enjoy to advertisers to have free services, I don't mind.
Yeah, that's not the worst thing you could do to me, sure.
But like reading through like private things, I don't know. There's the gray area there.
Yeah. Like Google definitely has like way more power like than Facebook. So like, even though they're not necessarily like an evil company, like just like little bits and pieces of things they do happen to be like gray area in like a lot of places. I feel like the problem is like, because they're like, oh, we have like control over everything that happens on your computer. Like basically Google does almost everything. That like when something small and like that's like in an ethical gray area happens, it happens in a lot of different weird places. But with Facebook, it's like, well, they just have like my name and stuff, so like it's not that bad. But Google has like my IP address, and,
yeah,
like,
it's like
my
much.
phone, and like
Facebook
my
is much
operating
more
system,
visual,
like,
but like it's not the tip of the iceberg that you have to worry about. It's the enormous thing underneath the iceberg that like is the
everything
problem.
else about me and my computer and everything I'm doing.
It's like, oh no, they have my name, but like so do all my friends that like know me. Versus Google is like, I know where you live, I know what you enjoy doing,
when you
your
search
phone number,
constantly all the time when you search it.
Yeah.
Like,
where are you going to go today at this specific
like, I can
time?
just predict what it is.
Because I've been watching you for the past 3 years. Like, to me, that's useful in some aspects, but also that gives them an incredible amount of power. That they haven't abused yet. Yeah.
I mean, they haven't been around that long. So.
Right, so like,
give it time.
obviously they haven't abused it yet because they've only existed for a relatively short period of time, even though it basically equates to my lifetime.
Yeah.
It's still relatively short. They have plenty of opportunity in the future to abuse everything. Or somebody else has the opportunity to abuse everything. It's going to be the end of us. End of the world. Repent, sinners.
Yeah. We're all wearing our tinfoil hats, of course.
Yeah.
Google branded tinfoil hats.
Forewarned, we are wearing our tinfoil hats right now. Should have said that before the beginning of this. Anyway, so it's interesting. So you have companies that in the past that have been doing this type of stuff, and then they kind of like make weird backtracks, like Apple open sourcing things, which is completely out of the blue for something like Apple, because all of their stuff needs to be.
Well, I think it's like, I wouldn't say it's out of the blue. Like in context, like out of context, yeah. Like Apple outsourced, like oh man, no one would ever think that. But like the people who make the language, they're just people, and so like I don't know what the guy's name is, but the guy who made the language, I'm sure he's like an open source contributor.
They are. Yeah.
Like, he knows what he's doing, and it's like, Apple brought him on to help write the language, or like, I guess he must have written a piece beforehand.
There's a specific guy that a lot of people were attributing Apple's like move towards open source with a lot of this stuff was like a guy who was just big in the open source community that was hired at Apple, and he's people have been speculating that he's been pushing them towards.
And I think like a lot of companies that have been around for a very long time are doing the same thing. Like when I was at Bloomberg, we have this guy. I want to say I think it's Vlad, the head of R&D, who like he's been there for 3-5 years. But like in that time, we've stopped the like we're going to make everything by ourselves, like, in this box so that it'll work, versus, like, let's just use this, like, product because it's already done, and then our developers can actually make meaningful stuff instead of writing the same trash every single day.
Mm-hmm. I had to do a lot of convincing of that as well at some company I worked at over the summer, because they are also not very used to that type of behavior. They've been around for a while, and everything's always been proprietary for them. And using libraries, I still had to go through lawyers. I still had to say, like, oh, is this open source library good? Because some open source libraries were good, some were not. But just to convince them to use some of these things was, like, difficult. Not impossible, but still, I had to jump through more hoops than just like, oh, because I was heavily suggested, oh, you want to do this? We'll just write it ourselves. No, like, there's no way we're doing that. It's already been done. There's no GPL to lock you into
it's like, I
on
can
these
just
other products either.
install this library.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to write it. Like,
of course, and as a Python developer, it's like, the library, pip is like, if you don't use PyP, like, you're done. Because there's so many useful things on there, and if you want to write everything, you can, but, like, somebody's already written it better than you.
Yeah.
And I, as a one-man team, did not have the time to go write my own, like, text, templater or something, to go learn that, along with everything else I was learning. So, it's, I guess, a new age is coming. It's the age of gray ethics.
Yeah, that's the problem. Is like everything's open, but it's gray.
Or maybe we're just older.
Yeah, we're done. We're old. We're done. That's it.
We're old on something.
Yeah.
Well, fortunately, I know for a fact that some new innovative startup is going to come and disrupt the industry, and the current environment.
Disrupt.
God. Absolutely. Taking a wild tangent here, I have been witnessing in the past few months the overuse of the word disrupt in referring to startups and like startup ideas and like things that are going to make you lots of money if you venture capitalists invest in it. But it's like an abuse of the English language. Honestly, disrupt was a good word, and now they've ruined it. Like it's just like overusing it over and over and over again, and now it's just it has no meaning in it anymore. It's like, I don't know. I'm just upset. I'm just sad that a good word in the English language is now dead because somebody, to me at least, because, venture capitalists and startup founders or what have you have all decided that that's the word that they're going to use to describe everything because they have no idea how to describe their startup idea, but it's going to disrupt things. In the end, I blame TechCrunch.
I think that's the, definition of being old. Is you're just like, oh man, these young people keep doing this thing that, just slightly bothers me, but now it's, gotten to the point where everyone's doing it, and, because I'm just old, and everyone else is younger.
Oh man,
dude.
Except that, these are, 25-year-old,
Yeah, I'm 20.
UPenn graduates.
And I'm annoyed at something that the 25-year-old graduates who moved to California to start their own company. It was funny. I was at a talk yesterday that was entirely all about intrapreneurs and innovation colonies or something. Intrapreneurs and innovation colonies. Basically, companies saying, "Hey, we want this really cool idea to happen that somebody on the inside has, but we don't want to go out and acquire some startup that has a similar idea. So instead, we're going to make the guys on the inside, we're going to cut off their salary, they're not going to be paid anymore, by us. And they're going to start up their own sort of sub-company, and we're going to give them funding, and they're basically going to do their own startup thing. And this is called the innovation colony. And they have to work really hard, and if their product works, they get bought back by the parent company, who still owns them, I guess.
Yeah.
And then they get paid for doing something for their company by creating a new business that is just a startup. It's just like an alias for a startup, but it's actually Microsoft.
I mean, that's what I did over the summer.
Really?
Yeah, so what they do is they're like, oh, we have this cool thing that we want to make, and like, it doesn't exist. So it does exist, but like, who's out there is trash. So like, let's just make it, and then they just like make a team. They don't fire everyone and like make.
Yeah, no, this is different from making a team and working on a new product internally. This is, but like, you no longer will have a guaranteed salary from us. You're going to work in your own company. Yeah. We don't control that company. You guys run that company. But if you fail, you lose your money.
That's on you.
And if you succeed, we'll just buy you back, and you'll make a lot more money. But we still own your product and everything, and we don't have to work out deals like if,
I don't know.
If you succeed, then we guarantee buy you. Nobody else can buy your company besides us.
I'd probably try it.
It seems
some people seem
the idea was good.
like a pretty good system.
It seemed interesting. I was, of course, not at all interested because I'm not an entrepreneur, or otherwise. But, some people seemed really interested in it. I get kind of sickened by some of the optimism in, I don't know, maybe this is me being a pessimist. I get kind of sickened by some of the optimism in, like, startup land.
Yeah, definitely makes sense.
I don't know. I'm ranting now, sort of, but I don't know. This is way off topic.
As a funded entrepreneur myself.
Oh yeah, Gabe. He is a funded entrepreneur.
Like, it's an interesting concept, but like, you need the right people to like do well.
Yeah.
That's basically what the topic.
But that's
was about.
any startup ever, right? Like
the whole talk was just like, so if you want to start your own company and do well, you need the right people to do well, and they need to be young and, below the age of 25 type of deal, and you need to be hardworking and successful. And even though in reality it's sort of all strung together by chance and the right people, I'm telling you it's not technically by chance, just that if you try, you will fail probably. But you can succeed. It is possible. That was basically the whole talk, and it was really bad. It wasn't horrible. There was like good points and bad points, but like in general, it was not great. ACM SIG needs to step it up. Anyway, by the way, ACM, join it. Professional Society for Professional People.
Yes.
I've only seen professionalism out of that company. That group. I am a member.
Definitely
paying
only
member by that. Alright.
They pay for my membership, the school. So.
Wow.
Anyway, so, let's get back on topic, should we? How about this? We've talked a lot about tech companies and stuff. Have you got a topic you'd really like to talk about? Something that's really on your mind? Cass, you got something?
You're so quiet.
Yeah.
No.
You're welcome to talk about whatever you like.
Yeah, we got tons of time.
Yeah. I kind of don't want to talk about, like, this entire time, because it's sort of like whatever.
Yeah, I mean, all of us like languages.
Yeah, I was going to say,
Yeah.
language is something interesting.
Yeah, I want to talk about languages. I like languages.
What's your languages?
Oh, let's talk about languages.
So what languages are you learning? You're learning,
I like Japanese and Italian.
and like Japanese is the one that pretty much like everyone at some point has tried. Like it's a thing.
I'm currently trying still.
Yeah.
And as I have been since, 13, the age of 13.
Yeah,
I've been trying,
that's it.
I've been failing
Yeah,
miserably.
it's just a constant struggle.
Yep. Well, still trying.
Japanese is the real language.
The only real language.
Yeah, the only real
Everything else.
real language. I'm not a fan, personally. I think there's too many degrees of freedom. Like, there's just so many things that could, like, that change. And it's, like, such a complicated structure.
I agree.
And I
Because-
used to like that about Japanese, but after seeing Chinese, I was like, actually, you know what?
Yeah.
Japanese is kind of like silly, kind of like.
Because you gotta think, like, Japanese, it's got characters.
Mhm.
It's got alphabets, multiple.
Yeah.
It's got grammar, a lot of it,
A lot
and it's
of it.
complicated. And then it has different forms of honorifics.
Mm-hmm.
It's got conjugation.
A lot of it.
It's just like everything that could be hard about any particular language
Yeah.
is like it has it together. And like English has most of those,
Yeah,
Minus,
that's
like-
the thing that keeps me going is, like, English is bad. Like, in terms of, like...
I'm
like
so
it's
glad
not-
it was my first language.
Like,
Like,
I would not be able to
to
do
learn
it.
it.
So, like,
I
that
will
keeps
learn
me
it.
going. It's like, if I can learn English, I can do this. Like, no problem. It may take me a long time, but I can do it.
I don't know.
And so far, I've got, like, 3 words in my vocabulary, so that's going along. I've been getting better at kanji, I think, so maybe that'll keep on going. Yeah, well, it took me a while to kind of get hiragana under my belt.
Yeah. I
10
don't know.
years.
I think it's just like you need to complete something, and then like for example, if you want to run a marathon, you have to run a mile, right? Like, and so people will be like, "Oh man, like I'm learning this language," and then they look up like hiragana, and they're like, "Okay, I've learned hiragana, but like I don't really want to learn katakana, so like I'll just stop there and like." Fake my way through the rest. And it's like you can't do
Yeah,
that.
it's impossible.
You have to follow through.
And that was sort of the problem for me for a long time. It was just like, oh, hiragana I got, and then it was like just getting through hiragana was like, I don't have the attention span for this.
Yeah,
and then katakana after that, it's like
I never finished katakana.
No,
And then kanji, just like forget it, like 2,000 characters. No, now I'm good.
See, I like
But I'm
kanji,
slowly
you
building
just
it
look
up.
at it and know what it means.
Yeah,
But that's why Chinese is good.
No,
You look at it,
Chinese
you're
is
like,
great.
you look at pictures. It's like, oh, okay, got it.
Yeah, I think the big thing is like I took Spanish since like I don't know 6th grade.
Oh.
I took it 6th grade to 12th grade, so 6 years, and then I took 2 semesters here.
Yep.
And then I was like, I'm never taking like a formal class again. Like this is disgusting. And so I didn't, and like I just never learned anything. Like I did German, I did Hebrew, Japanese, Chinese. I just kept, and it was like I never learned anything.
Yeah.
And then like this semester, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna buckle down. Let's just take a class.
Yeah.
And like now, like I can speak, and it's crazy. Like I took the HSK 1,
Yeah.
the lowest level of Chinese test, and it was a joke.
Really?
It was like it was insane. Like I think I got one question wrong, but like because it was a joke. Like it was ridiculous. And so, but like I would have never gotten even that close. Like before, I would look at it and then be like, okay, I'm not gonna learn characters. I'll just like memorize pinyin and like just learn it that way.
It makes you more well-rounded, I guess. Like, than you would want to be on your own, but it's something you need, isn't it?
Because you need the like force to do the like work.
Yeah.
yeah, that's the like.
So I have so much work to do.
I've kind of
for Chinese.
I've kind of always wondered if I would should try learning Chinese at some point, but like I know that if I do that, like I won't have any drive at all. Like there's nothing, not to offend Chinese speakers, but like there's nothing about Chinese that I know of that would like drive me forward. Whereas I do have that with Japanese, because I've had that for a long time. So
Like, I have no desire to learn Chinese. But, like, once I started, it's so easy
Yeah.
that, like,
Might as well continue.
Yeah.
and, like, that's gonna trigger people because Chinese is, like, really hard. But, like, so, I'm taking Korean and Chinese, right? And Korean is a joke already.
Oh.
Chinese is just a bunch of work, but if you put in the work, it's, like, trivial because it's, like, can you build Legos? Then you can make Chinese sentences.
Yeah, if you try to
It's like
understand, yeah.
easy, yeah, and like the tones. I don't even think I just let everything flow naturally. I'm gonna be wrong half the time, but context clues give you everything.
Yeah. Oh, that's the same. Tone's is my only problem. And like pronouncing things correctly is my only problem.
that that still wrecks me and just messes me up. I don't know. It's like tones is different in Chinese than what I'm thinking of.
The hardest thing for me is intonation, especially in Korean. So like, because you want to say everything is an individual word,
Yeah.
but there's no flow if you just
That's
like
true. Korean is
say just like, oh, I'm going up on this, and then I'm going back down.
Oh.
And it's like, that doesn't work. And so you have to kind of figure, like, I was reading out loud, and Miguel was like, no, this is, you can't talk like that, because it sounds ridiculous.
I guess you just have to hear a lot of speaking.
Yeah, you have to speak, and then you have to hear a lot of people speak.
Mhm.
So that's kind of tricky. Problem is, I don't have any friends that speak those languages that I'm trying to learn. I don't
You
have
could
this.
just make friends. It's
Oh
like,
my goodness. Yeah, okay, yeah, I'll just go out and make friends.
Okay, you just walk. It's just like
so easy.
you just go outside,
make friends.
you use my patented method. It works every single time. You just look for someone. You just look for an Asian person, right? And then you walk up to
Step one,
them.
look for an Asian person.
So let's say you're in the union, right? You
Walk
walk
up
up
to
to them. Yeah.
Yep.
No, that's not step 2 isn't walk up to them.
Step 1.5, walk up to them.
Intermediary, yeah.
Well, step 0 is find a person.
Stop zero. Step
Yes.
zero. Find an Asian person.
Yes. Step
Doesn't
1
matter if they're
is you
Chinese,
walk up
it's
and you
whatever.
ask them, like, just a question. So you walk up and you're like, hey, excuse me, do you know when the union closes?
Okay.
Something like that. Something like not, like, just, it doesn't actually matter. You don't care. Or you're like, hey, do you know, like, what the date is today? Or like, do you know what time it is?
Yeah.
And then you
I say
listen.
with my watch.
It's just like, I don't know. So then they'll talk back to you, right?
Yep.
And then step 2 is, oh, I like your accent. Where are you from? And then if they say anywhere in Japan, then you're like, oh, that's sweet. Like, I like Japanese stuff. And then you just say something to them in Japanese.
Yeah.
And then you're friends. Done. That's it. 3 steps right there. I mean, obviously, there's a 0th step, which is find an Asian person. But, like,
But you can do that.
that's how it works. And it works every time.
Every time.
Well, I mean, when it works every time.
When it works.
When it works.
100% of the time.
Because, like, there are a lot of Asian people that are not foreign, so,
Yeah.
you know, then you just, like, that's the thing. You've asked them, and they're like, oh, yeah, it's 5:30. And you're like, oh, thanks. And then you just, like, walk away. Because that's not what you're looking for, right?
Yeah.
It's easy.
I don't know.
For me, I'd rather just go on YouTube and search, like, Chinese news and, like, listen to Chinese news. But, yeah, we listened to North Korean news earlier today. Just wanted to get Korean.
Or you could just go on, like, Reddit and find someone to Skype with.
That's it.
That is too social. That's way too social.
It sounds scary.
Typing on a keyboard to another person across the internet is like just barely good enough for me. I could not Skype with a person.
It's scary, but, like, it's once you do it, it's not that
There was
bad.
one time I joined like a Japanese language like interest study group, like intro, and it was like 4 or 5 of us, and like the majority of the people were like young, like teenagers in their room, and they had just like anime posters all over the wall. But the girl who led the group was like this kind of like, I don't know, I'm gonna say maybe in the 20s range. Jamaican woman who just had like music blaring in the background, and she was nasty. Like anytime you tried to like say, she would be like, "All right, we're starting now. All right, say introduce yourself in Japanese," and and people would introduce themselves, and I'd be like, "I have no idea."
Yeah.
So and then she would be like,
here's
"What?
the trick.
Just say this." She would say, "Oh, it's just
The
like,
trick is
oh,
you
okay.
take 1 semester, and it kickstarts you enough to be able to do stuff.
Yeah.
I don't have time to take a
Because-
semester of Japanese, though.
I like that.
I mean, I do, but like,
That's,
I-
that's all you need to do. Because
I can't get myself.
it'll
to do
give
it.
you, like, the confidence to talk to someone.
Yeah.
In that, like, I feel confident talking to people in Chinese. And, like, I know I'm wrong, because, like, I'm not Chinese.
Yeah,
But, like, they know what I'm saying, and they can correct me in, like, a normal way and not yell at me, and I don't feel, like, sad about it.
Yeah, they're not like, what did you say? You're like, oh no, you should do this. It's
Yeah, they're like, oh, you said chicken instead of, like, sister. So, yeah. And it's like, oh, okay, like, thank you for that. Like, I've been saying it wrong my entire life, and no one corrected me. And so it's like, you can also just find a setting that's comfortable, like, go and, like, hey, I really enjoy playing, like, I don't know, chess. Do you want to play chess and speak Japanese with me? And that's it. And, like, there's the other guy who's like, hey, I'm Japanese, I would love to learn English, but, like, no one will practice with me.
Oh,
That kind of thing. And it's like, yeah.
That I could do because like that I feel like we're like.
But the problem
there's a
is,
process of exchange.
what you need to do is say, like, look, we need to split half and half, because otherwise I will just spend the entire time speaking to you in English.
Yeah.
You have to force yourself to switch.
I mean, that's fair. That makes complete sense to me. I don't know.
Asterisk, like, I've never done this. I've only done it in Norwegian, and, like, I don't speak that well, so.
Yeah.
Norwegian's easy. It's basically the same as Korean. It's just all English words.
Oh. Well, yeah, that's like Dutch and German.
German, yeah.
Ich bin in Fietz. I have a bicycle.
Yeah.
I bet that JNLPT 5 exam.
Is 5 the easiest one?
That's the
Yeah,
easiest.
that's
It goes from
easiest,
5 to 1.
Okay, yeah. HSK is
One is like
1 to
native speakers
5.
can't even deal with that. Like 5 is like you got to try it pretty.
I mean, like,
pretty well.
I couldn't pass an English one, but I feel competent enough in English to speak to people.
The thing is, I'm like in Italian. Like I couldn't pass an Italian exam, but like I can go to Italy and talk to people and just like do stuff in Italian and have no problem. It's strange. I don't know.
Well, I think, like, what you need to do is, like, especially when you're in the beginning, is to force yourself to use it and, like, have fun.
Yeah.
And so, like, I will go and mess with Miguel in Korean and, like, pretend I'm, like, his younger sister and, like, ask him for help with my, like, tutu or something. Like, it doesn't matter because you're using vocabulary and you're conjugating things live.
I mean, that's what I
Making
need
those
to
connections.
do. I just I don't know.
Like, if you're next to someone in line, you know, that
It's
speaks
funny.
Chinese, you're like, excuse me, like, move out my way, but you say it in Chinese, and then, like, you're done.
It's funny that you say that actually, because Miguel actually frequently comes into my room and just starts speaking Japanese to me.
Yeah,
And, like, I'm like the closest person besides Cass who had any idea what he's saying. So, like, I don't know any words.
Yeah.
So, like, I could barely talk to him besides, like, nandake, you know, so this ne, like, which doesn't mean anything. And, he will talk to me and kind of, like, he'll use a verb or something and he'll like, say the English word as well, or point to something. And, like, I don't know, that's helpful because
yeah, like
then I'm just like, oh, I'm actually speaking to someone, even though, like, he's probably, like, he's probably not, like, an expert at, like, because, like, I hear
But
him
that's the
stutter
thing,
and just
it's
say,
like, it
you'll
doesn't-
learn through diffusion.
It
Like,
doesn't
it'll
matter.
work.
Yeah. Like, the amount of things I've learned from Miguel in Korean, and, like, I didn't even speak Korean at the time. Just, like, I slowly picked them up, and then, like, someone would ask something in class, and I'm like, it's obvious,
It's
like,
like,
this is
oh,
what it
yeah.
is. Because, like, you just, like, hear it. As if,
over and over again.
yeah.
And it's the same with, like, in anime. Like, especially, like, slice of life animes or whatever. There's about 4 or 5 different phrases they use throughout an entire episode. So, like, you hear them over and over again, and you just pick them up, and it's like, okay, well, I don't know a bunch of grammar rules and stuff, but I know how to use these and in what situations.
Yeah, I
It's
know
very
idiomatic
functional.
expressions.
Yeah.
Like, these are, like, what people, like,
This is
have
what
a
you
nice
would say.
day.
I mean,
It's like, I get it.
That's
Yeah.
the 3 words in my. It's like konnichiwa, nandake, and so this. And the other two are just like they just like don't mean anything. They're just, like,
95%
things
of
that
my
people
Korean
say.
vocabulary is opa saranghe. And, like, it's... But it makes it fun because you can mess with people
Yeah, it's what you want.
as long as you're friends with them, right? Like,
Yeah.
I could ask someone in a business sense if you would like to eat a dick. And it's like...
in a business
sense. And, like, it becomes a joke because, like, no one would ever say that, but I know how to conjugate it, and I need something to say,
So you can.
and then everyone learns because, like, oh, that's how you conjugate a business sense?
That's interesting.
I didn't know that.
Interesting. In a business sense.
Or you could be like, as a lover, would you please eat my penis?
You were doing that, right?
Of course, like, yeah, a lot of them just revolve around, like, something, like, vaguely sexual.
Of course, yeah.
Like, excuse
That's
me,
make it
sir,
interesting, right?
can you assist me with my 2 blue balls? Which I've forgotten how to say, but...
Pretty useful language.
Wow. Okay.
But then it's like, okay, I've learned how to count things, I've learned how to say colors on objects,
Wow.
and I've learned how to ask for help. All in that one sentence. And, like, it sounds like a joke, but I've learned so much.
A lot of useful things.
Yeah.
I guess that's how I learned programming languages. Is that I just be like, all right, how do you do like variables? How do you do if statements? How do you do for loops? And then practice that. And like before getting into functions or anything, just practice that. And then get into functions. Like what can you do with functions?
There's
what can you do
also-
with classes or whatever things that the thing that each programming language has. It's just that programming languages have a much smaller set of topics that you can cover, whereas
See, like, it's funny.
human language is just like massively expanded.
You're very much like, oh, I'll just learn, like, this obscure language, because, like, this obscure programming language, because, like, whatever. And, like, I would never, like, sit down and be like, oh, like, time to learn Erlang, like, let's go. But, like, I would sit down and be like, okay, Urdu, like, let's go. And so, it's like, ooh, I'm on Wikipedia learning about like present aspects in like Taiwanese, and it's all about like. I'm not worried about it because what if you make a mistake in programming? Oh, like computer error, whatever.
That's my thing. It's just like
it doesn't
with
matter.
Programming language, if I screw up, it's like, oh.
But that's what I screw up enough in
programming.
English that like, and no one cares because
no.
it doesn't matter.
But like the thing is that I have a problem with English that I really care about my errors in English because I've been forced, like, well, not forced, but I've been brought up by an English teacher who made me care about my English errors a lot. So when I make like errors in other languages, I feel the same that I do, even though I shouldn't, because like, of course, I will make those errors. I don't know the language. But like, if I can get into the habit that I have with programming languages, which is that I learned like 5-ish pretty well enough, and then I could just keep on going. Like I recognized enough similarities, and I just plow through, other programming languages. Because at some point they all have similar characteristics. There's like 3 real programming languages, and some would even argue now with languages like Go, Swift, Rust, all those the new generation of programming languages coming out, that people now they're seeing programming languages all sort of converge to one language because they're all stealing from each other. It's very interesting to see.
I mean,
and
everyone knows Pro 6 is the only language to use because it's
Pro
just
6 though too. Does
it's every language.
Yeah,
in one.
Pro 6 just stole from every language and like took 10 years, but like now it's coming out and no one's going to use it, but every language is converging to the same thing. I was actually terrified because Swift, when I started playing around with it last week, looked almost strikingly like, not Go. It was visually different enough from Go, but it was almost the same as what language? It looked very similar to Scala, actually. Sort of. Oh, Kotlin.
I love these names.
Yeah. Kotlin is another language coming out. It compiles the JVM, and it's made by JetBrains,
They changed their logo recently.
Did they?
I saw. I mean, I don't know. I just saw it on like the news.
The previous week I had been looking at Kotlin just because I was bored, and it seems interesting. It's going to come out to a full release, to a 1.0 release soon. And then I was looking at Swift, and I was like, Swift and Kotlin are like the same languages. Like, they're very similar. They have a lot of the same features. They have a lot of the same syntax. They're not exactly the same because they do things slightly different. Like, Swift looks a little bit more like Python than Kotlin does because Kotlin looks more like Java. But, like, other than that, like, they're very similar. And they're all borrowing from each other.
Yeah.
And, like, Haskell, weirdly, is, like, driving a lot of this in, like, a way just, like, Haskell just keeps on innovating on, like, functional things you can do with functional programming languages. And, like, all of the other languages are like, yeah, we're not that crazy. But then they'll steal, like, oh, but this looks good. Like, and then they'll put it in their language, and then they'll take it here and put it in their language. And that's, weirdly, they're all kind of mixing together. And one day, we'll have the master programming language.
I would argue
that
that is literally any language, whether programming or not.
Oh. Yeah, exactly, right?
You have English, and you have, like, American English, British English, and, like, it's basically the same thing. You have C and C++, and, like, if you know one, you know the other, but it's not exactly the same. And then, like, oh, man, it's really hot to, like, learn French now, like, psh. Or, like, oh, there's those people, like, over there that learn, like, functional languages, like Asian languages. And it's like, because once you learn one Asian language, you might as well just finish it, because, like, whatever, right? And then you have, like, the C-like romance languages.
Yeah.
Right? And it's just, like,
or, like, Latin is C.
And exactly.
And then, like, C++ is just, like, I don't know.
Spanish,
Italian type of thing. And then you get Java, which is, like, I don't know. What's the furthest derivative of, like, a romance language?
I don't know enough, like, language tree stuff to...
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know languages anymore.
But the metaphor is there.
In there. Yeah,
the metaphor is there.
And then English is
Python
just
is American English. You just like
you're just gonna
throw it there.
I don't know. American English is sort of an abuse
commas
of every language.
Yeah, we need go-tos in American English. That's what we need.
Oh my God, we do have go-tos in American English.
But that's the thing. Is like you need to just let go.
Let it go.
And just be like, I'm willing to make mistakes.
Yeah, exactly.
And it doesn't matter.
I've been working on that for years.
Because the idea is you want to learn.
Yeah, we'll just do the next podcast in Japanese. I can probably learn it.
All right, I'm up to
week.
it. Nandake, so desu ne, so desu ka.
Everyone gets a different Asian language.
Oh,
Someone speaks only Korean, Chinese, Japanese.
Sweet.
Tibetan.
As long as I don't have to speak Japanese, I'm okay with
I'll
that.
do Chinese. That's cheating.
There we go. There we have it. I'll speak Emacs next time. E-Lisp.
He's E-list.
E-Lisp.
What is the Esperanto of programming languages?
What is...
Python.
Oh, it's supposed to be the universal?
Python, I guess. Yeah.
What, is
The
that
one
supposed to
that's
be the
like
universal?
You can learn in
I
like
guess
a
it is
week.
Python, yeah.
It's got to be Python.
Yeah.
Python you can pick up very quickly.
Yeah,
An
yeah,
experienced,
Esperanto.
an experienced like, not even like super experienced, just like someone who's picked up a language before
Yeah.
can pick up Python
Yes.
in
And like everyone has picked up a language because they speak
an
English.
afternoon. Yeah,
So they can pick up Esperanto in an afternoon.
Yeah, definitely.
I'd agree. Yeah.
yeah, Haskell.
Okay, what else? Haskell?
Yeah.
Japanese.
Japanese.
It requires a whole different way of thinking because the verb goes at the end.
Uh-huh.
But like,
That's not entirely different from like what some other languages.
well then choose a language.
But for Japanese,
No, for Haskell.
Haskell's like
What is the real world?
lambda calculus. It's like math. That's
You can
basically the
choose
equivalent.
math as a
So
language.
Latin.
I mean, like it's like math language. Like the language used in proofs and stuff is like wildly different from English. I would argue that it's sort of that equivalent.
Okay.
Okay.
You require an entirely different way of thinking because every word means something different, and you need to follow very specific rules. And if you don't, like nothing will work. Like your entire program just fails.
Yes.
And then there's some arbitrary rules placed in there that have a good reason, but you're not really sure of it. Like unless you can think of a language that meets that, I would say like.
Arbitrary rules that exist, but they don't really have a use.
Well, not that they
Every
haven't used
language ever.
arbitrary rules that exist that do have a reason to be there, but you're never really sure why.
I don't know. I like a language like that. Haskell just, I guess, transcends language. It's
I don't know.
only expressed in pure logic.
I
That's fun.
don't know. That's what its goal was, try to be as mathematical as possible. Except it fails at I.O., but like, oh well. I.O. is impure.
They need to just make, like... The problem is, and they do this with real languages, too. They're like, we just need to make, like, the best language right now. Like, we'll just start from scratch.
Yeah.
That's
We'll do
That's Go's story.
And then, like, they make it, and they're
best
like,
languages.
this is just, like, the same thing.
Yeah, this is just weird. Like, we just stole a bunch of stuff and no one wants to use it.
Yeah. No one's gonna... This is it's basically English combined with, like, French. And it's like, no one wants it.
Who is for that?
Yeah, exactly. It's like, this isn't what we set out to do. And then, like, the, 20 people who use it are like, no, we're gonna use this now. So, like, good luck.
Yeah, and it's better than every other language for this specific reason. Like, it outperforms every other language in this specific set. And if it doesn't, then, like, I can think of a reason why it doesn't. It'll be on Y Combinator tomorrow morning. You can read all about it in my Medium blog post.
Oh, of course, yes.
I
I like Medium, actually.
I kind of like it. It's got good stuff.
Very easy to read on mobile.
That's true. I do like the mobile
That's
app.
That's why I'm a fan. Yeah. If your website is easy to use on mobile, then I will use it. Because for example, I have more tabs on my phone currently than on both of my desktops combined.
I probably have that too, just because I failed to forget. Like I just don't.
I'm
close the tabs on my
I can
phone.
see 'em, yeah.
Like, today, I've probably opened 20 tabs. I think I hover around, 70. To the point where, last week, it was just showing a smiley face instead of the number.
Oh my god! That's
I think
over
I
100.
went over 100,
That's over
yeah.
100
I
tabs.
do that on the desktop, and never the phone.
Oh god, I couldn't.
It's
deal
just
with
so easy to do it on the phone, because there's just so much stuff.
Every time I see a new tab, I have the fear that that's gonna just eat up my CPU. It's a phone. How could it do 70 different tabs at once?
I don't even
So
even
whatever
know.
process is going on, it's just yeah.
And
whatever,
my
70
phone
tabs.
battery lasts a pretty long time, so I don't...
It's eating up the RAM
'cause-
somehow. Nope,
you know
it's
what
just
it is.
backgrounding
Because
everything.
I'm not on an Android.
Oh, maybe.
Is that the case? I
Okay,
can open up
I'll
100
tell you
tabs
this.
on Android.
I'm
and
sure it
it'll be
doesn't
fine.
actually.
I got a Gear VR
Yep.
from Lijun.
Yep.
Okay? I had it for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and it already overheated.
Oh wow.
What is that, Android?
That's not Android. That's Oculus.
No, this is a Samsung phone. Samsung Gear... What is it?
It's
S6?
the Samsung
S6.
S6. Yes. You put that in a Gear VR and the phone overheated?
It wasn't even in there yet. it said, like, can't run until phone overheats.
And it's like,
And it was like, wait 10 minutes
why did it do that?
to do anything. And I was like, why is this phone physically warm?
That is frightening.
To
My
the
phone gets
touch.
warm
That's
too,
weird.
actually. When I charge it, gets
The thing is,
But
like,
that's not Android's fault. That's Samsung.
no, that is, I've never met an Android phone that isn't hot.
Really?
Like, I went on a car trip with Alan once.
Oh.
We had to have the AC on to cool his phone because Google Maps just, like,
It was just
overheats
heating
his
up.
phone.
That's scary.
Running stuff on the JVM requires that CPU to be fired.
I guess
I don't know what the CPU frequencies are on the iPhone versus Android.
Yeah, I guess that's
What they clock in at.
I don't know, but I wouldn't suspect it's that much lower than...
I wouldn't suspect it's that much lower either, which is what's confusing me. But that's where the heat comes from.
Yeah, when they're both passively cooled, so I don't... But, like my cousin, I don't know what phone he has, but on his front, like, when he opens on his lock screen, he has a temperature gauge because it'll go over 100 degrees Fahrenheit. And, like,
That's weird.
he'll have to take his phone out of his pocket because it's too warm to, like, be in there.
Oh, I've definitely gotten that. I have the S6, and like I'll put it in my pocket after charging it. For some reason, will make it hot, which is really
Well, that
surprising.
makes sense. Charging, I think, that's, like, the only legitimate reason for it to be
Right, 'cause a
warm.
bunch of electricity
Well, like,
trying to run it as fast as
But it
possible.
feels warmer than it should be. Like I put it in my pocket and it hurts. So I'm like, oh, geez, why'd I do that? Like it's, I don't know, if it's okay.
Yeah, Samsung. Explain yourself.
I mean, I don't
Android is also too confusing to use.
Too
So.
confusing.
What do you mean too confusing?
I was like, I just want to connect to Wi-Fi. And then Alan was like, oh, here you go.
Yeah.
And, like, did this
Yeah,
motion.
Wi-Fi and then-
You do, like, something, and then you hit 5 buttons, and then it's
I
like...
can't figure out how to connect to Wi-Fi on iPhones.
You hit the button that says settings, and you click Wi-Fi.
Oh, you can do that.
I couldn't even find the settings button on Android.
You swipe
Scroll down, you
top
push the
right.
setting button.
Yeah.
There's
Scroll
Wi-Fi.
down from where? There's nothing to scroll on.
Pull down the little.
It's the little drop-down menu. iPhone
What
has it
drop-down
too.
menu?
Is that ready? Boom. See this little gear right here?
That's it.
What's this?
Oh, I didn't know.
Wi-Fi.
I didn't know that was an icon to click.
You gotta learn the tricks.
I can't click on the stuff on the top of my screen.
Oh.
Jesus,
There you go.
that was one swipe, a click, and then it would have been another click for getting.
Well, I mean,
into Wi-Fi.
Samsung also wraps it with like their own UI, I'm sure.
Yes, yes. No, that's the thing is that like all the companies will take the Android operating system and modify it however.
Like I was
they
on the
want.
lock screen.
and then the providers need to take that operating system and wrap it in whatever software they want,
Uh-huh.
and then they give it to you.
Or
And
they
that's
give you
really
the-
where the problem is. Is like I wish just like I got the direct
Yeah, pure Android.
Android.
But then just get the Google
Streaming.
Fi or whatever.
I'm gonna have to do that, but like my
Oh, yeah.
provider doesn't like have it, and I need to get on Google Fi. But that means I have to.
Because like I hit the button
Mhm.
for the Samsung. Like I imagine I'm holding the Samsung.
Uh-huh.
I hit the button, and then like I don't know what to do from this point because at least on my phone it's like slide to unlock,
Uh-huh.
and so I start touching the screen like trying to open it, and it was like nope. But like if you press down and then slowly move to the right and then like just let go, there's like a ripple and then the phone
Yeah.
unlocks,
It does that.
and then I'm on a screen which I have no idea how to get to the apps. So
Push the button that says apps.
I didn't see one, so I pushed the home button, and that wasn't it. I don't know even where I got taken with that. So
The home screen.
it's just like I was already there though. I don't know. It like opened something.
I don't know.
I never even
Oh, it opened the
considered that.
camera because I pressed the home button.
Oh, yeah, if you push it twice, you get the camera.
Yep. I do consider that a little annoying.
I'll agree the lock screen is definitely confusing, where it's like, oh, what do you do? Make a ripple. What? Fast? Slow? I don't know. Just do it. But, like, I guess for me, I couldn't consider, like, would I be confused using an Android phone? Because, like, I got the Droid when it first came out, and I've used the Android phone ever since. So, like, each step of the way.
The thing
how
is,
could I
like,
get
a
lost?
2-year-old can use an iPhone. A 2-year-old cannot use an Android. I'll tell you that.
That might be true.
And I'm not like trying to like push for Apple. I'm sure like Android has a ton of features that are like really good.
Yeah, but they're not so.
But like, as someone who
User-friendly.
like is an old person and doesn't want to learn like new stuff, that's worse for me.
We're all just old people sitting on a table talking to a microphone. Like it matter.
One day.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I've always thought that Apple has had the advantage when the design thing.
Yeah.
Like Apple stuff is always easier to use than, even though I'm hardcore Android, like Apple stuff is always easier to use than like, at least from a like design principle, than Android is.
Has a streamlined like feeling to it.
And
Just
then,
because they
like,
put so much energy into that.
I've
Whereas
just never had a
that doesn't
reason to
happen so much.
switch as well. Like, there's like, ooh, like I want to do this thing on my phone, and then like I try to do it, it's like, oh, you need to like get an Android phone to do this thing, and it's like, well, I'm over it. Like, I don't even want to do it
Okay,
anymore.
Why
yeah.
does not do that then?
Yeah, I like to do something else.
There really is
See,
no
it's the
switch.
company's trying to lock you in. Lock
Yeah.
you in.
No, it's
And if I
also
switch
like
to Google Fi, then Google controls my wireless.
there's also
network.
just like a what's the word? Like a fanboyish thing. It's like I can't switch to Android because everyone's like, oh, like finally you decided to join
Oh,
like
yeah,
the
that's-
real
it's gonna
side.
be-
That's
Yeah.
funny because I feel the same way about Apple.
Yeah, you'd be like, oh, you betray us.
I would be like, oh no, now I get to join the Apple cult. Like,
But that's you'd be saying it. I wouldn't
Right,
be
yeah.
like, oh, thanks for joining the correct side here. I would just be like, oh, like, don't you enjoy it? And you're like, yeah.
It's easy, huh? Yes.
Like brain power is like a nice like I can not that I would and I don't condone texting while driving, but I can text without looking at the screen. I can just type like this because I can type without looking. And so like the other day we were in class and this guy, Chris, we were sitting there and he was like, "Oh, my keyboard just crashed." And I was like, "Your keyboard crashed?" And he's like, "Yeah, like I was typing and my keyboard crashed." And I was like, "Do you have like a third-party keyboard? Like maybe that's why." He's like, "No, I'm using stock Android, the keyboard." And I was like, "Okay." And then of course the guy behind him who works at Apple, he goes, "How? Like how can you even use something that's that bad? Like if you're like stock, like if I try to open the settings app and the settings app crashes, like I'm done. There's no way I'm using this anymore."
so yeah,
Yeah, people use Windows still, so like, I
yeah,
don't
no.
know.
There's a few. I don't know. I want to make. There's a few things to that. Like first of all, the stock keyboard is like there's no like stock Android keyboard. It's like whatever manufacturer decides to make the keyboard for you. So like Samsung has its own keyboard. And
But
then,
doesn't
like,
Google
every other
have their own
company-
keyboard?
They do, but you have to install it yourself. You have to go out of your way and like install.
So, like, if you
Google
don't
keyboard,
install any
unless you have
keyboards-
a Nexus, which
Okay.
Google has their stuff on.
on.
So I've never had but that being said, I have had the Google keyboard crash on me, like, and not like rarely. I will have it, I would say uncommonly, the Google keyboard will just like freak out on me, and my screen will just sort of lock up, and it will not work. So I'm not saying that's wrong, and I get annoyed at it too because like, guys, it's keyboard. I also have to say, as someone who's done Android development before, Java is the worst freaking language ever, and it's a terrible, like, this is just like, I'm not gonna justify this in any way because, like, it's a little exaggerated, but, like, just Java is the worst language you could have possibly, like, chosen for
Yeah,
that.
why didn't
I'm
they
just
just use
so
Go?
angry.
Like,
Well, Go's
I think,
also
like,
a little trashy, but whatever.
I don't mean to imply that like my iPhone never has problems,
No.
but they're rare enough that I don't even think about it.
But I have the same experience with Android. Like, my problems with Android phones are rare enough that I don't have a problem.
And I feel like with Android, when I have a problem, I know how to fix it. Because, like, so my keyboard will, like, freak out all the time and do crazy stuff. But, like, click off, click back onto the thing, and then, like, push space and the keyboard will work again. I don't know why, but I just know to do that. So, I don't know. It doesn't inhibit me, but, like, maybe that's because I know how to use it.
Like,
Because I'm used to it.
I don't know. Yeah, maybe like I've never had an Android phone, and there's no reason for me to get one because I don't really care about phones anyway.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
But like, if there's any kind of friction, I would just stop using it. I know I could switch to that S6,
No.
but I know as soon as like I try to do one thing and like all of a sudden it's just like no,
No, go ahead.
I'd be like nope, like I'm done.
And I had an
I'm
iPod.
moving
I had one of the earliest iPod touches, and so I actually used a iPhone-like, kind of interface very early on, and I never really had a problem with it, except occasionally when just random apps would crash. But like,
But that's like third party stuff.
Yeah,
it's not like
it's not
our
Apple,
fault.
it's not.
So like, other than the fact that Wi-Fi would be spotty, but I think that had more to do with my house than
Yeah,
than Apple. So like, I'm not saying it's bad. It's a good design. It's just like I have an Apple cult problem, which may go away now that I have bought a MacBook, and will start using one. But I don't know. I have to stay different than people. I have to rebel in some way, right?
I mean, that's the thing is like, I could run Linux on the laptop.
Yeah.
But like, if I wanted to have problems with a computer, I would just use my desktop. which runs Windows. Like, I need my laptop to, like, work, because when my desktop breaks, I can at least use it to Google stuff.
Just be a flowing, like, user experience that I enjoy.
Yeah, like, I just want to, like, open it, do what I need to do, close it, leave. I don't want to, like, open it, oh, I don't have this package that, like, updated, and now, like, my battery just, like, the gauge just moves back and forth.
Yeah, like...
It's like, okay,
sudo
apt get install updates.
Oh, I plugged in this video, like, this cord for the projector, and like, oops, sorry, the kernel firmware doesn't have this card, so it crashes. Like, you just...
So I would use the webcam, but, like, no one's written a driver for it.
No one's written a driver for this particular distribution of Linux, for the webcam. And my graphics card on here, completely useless, because NVIDIA's proprietary software, and Linux is just like, no. You have to reverse engineer the proprietary drivers if you're going to use them. That means write everything from scratch. That basically try to emulate the proprietary drivers as best as possible. Oh well. Linux life.
Or you could just use, like,
Or
Mac.
you could use a Mac.
Just plug it in.
Yeah, plug and
Plug
play.
it in, it works.
It is the definition of plug and play.
Yep. And you don't have to deal with Windows.
But the thing is, like, I don't mind paying for that experience.
I always had a problem with that, though. I was like, Apple, you're overcharging me.
Yeah, me too.
But like, now that I've spent the time looking at MacBook Pros, like the few months I spent looking at a laptop, I was like, actually, Apple's not really overcharging me for much. They're really just, like, tacking on a little bit extra. And since they have such good quality, I'm willing to, like, forgive it. Because, like, what they're really charging me for is the fact that they decided to just put SSDs in everything.
Oh, wow.
But that's not even an option you have to take. Like, you could go for the straight 1 terabyte, like, magnetic hard drive, like, hard disk. But, like, the default option is solid state drives. And, which isn't a problem with me, because, like, those are cool.
Yeah.
I mean, eventually they'll die one day, but, like, whatever, they're cool. And, with what, the hardware is decent. I mean, it's got a processor on it that runs, well, you know, somewhere in the 2-point-something gigahertz range. And, it's got, 8 gigs of RAM, so it's like, decent
Mine
material.
is 5 years old, and
Yeah.
runs pretty well.
It goes.
And it'll last forever. The mouse pad doesn't break on you. Like
beautiful.
my laptop
I
has
spilled
right
orange juice in it, and, like,
In it, on and around it.
Brett cleaned it off with, like, a baby wipe, and now it's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
And the thing is, like...
Yeah, the only thing I have to worry about is buying their stupid adapters for everything.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't like
But that's... I include that in, like, the premium cost of, like, doing business. Because the thing is, if you buy any thin laptop, and you're going to have to buy an adapter nowadays.
For what? Other than my charger.
So, like... Well, you have a full HDMI.
Yeah, that's the thing. If you have HDMI.
But you could buy something that doesn't... It has, like, mini HDMI, and then you have to buy the
HDMI
thing. Or,
Yeah. Well,
and, like, at least... Like, my laptop's lasted me 5 years, so that $20 I spent on an adapter to go from mini DisplayPort to DVI
it's worth it.
is fine. And you can always buy third-party Apple products because there's so many people that make them.
Yeah, as a market.
But, like, are you going to get third-party Lenovo products? No. I don't think so.
Linux. Linux for
The
life.
thing is, like...
All I need is Emacs, man.
You have two things. It's like... You have the problems with Linux or Windows, and then, like, all this random hardware that runs on laptops. Like, and so I've never not had problems with a laptop that runs Windows. Because, like, it's fine, and then it's like, oh, I need to install the new updated operating system. Now all my drivers are gone.
Yeah.
The website to get the drivers is ridiculous. We're missing, like, the local Wi-Fi driver. So this guy wrote his own, like, okay, I'll just download it. And it's like, well, now only Wi-Fi works, like, once. And then, like, that's it.
I've had enough headaches with Windows to convince me that Windows is a piece of trash.
Yeah.
Not to offend any Windows users or .NET developers.
I mean, I still
like,
use Windows.
I have
Windows
given,
too.
yes,
That's fine.
I do have a Windows machine, and I've given Windows plenty of benefit of the doubt, especially I'd like to revisit it for some reason every once in a while. But every time I revisit it, it's still broken.
and the user experience is not up to par. And plus, I am a programmer, so I need my Unix.
The thing is, Windows is the Android of like desktop operating system. It's
Yeah.
like you have the iOS,
No.
Mac OS simplicity, but it can't do a lot. And then you have like Windows, where like you can do anything
do a
you
lot.
want, but everything's broken.
Yeah, but it'll be janky.
Yeah, it's like if you're willing to put up with it, like that's fine.
If I tape it together, you can.
But like if I install a program, it doesn't crash on me all the time, which is nice. My programs don't get randomly uninstalled, which is kind of convenient.
Image view is perfect.
It's like I don't know, and there's so much different hardware that like it's tricky.
I need all of those packages Visual Studio installs now.
Every single one.
Yeah.
All 10 gigabytes of it.
Every single like it's like, ooh, I want to try this game. I didn't install Visual C++ Redistributable 2015.
Yeah,
it's like, but I just did yesterday.
And it's like, no, you need a new one. It's better now. Okay. I believe you. Just in case.
That's what they just named it 2015, even though it was like 1998. They're like, psh, like what's
Nothing new on it.
whatever, yeah.
From what I hear, the Microsoft developers they're having trouble with writing their compilers for C++.
The Visual C++ compiler has always been.
I know,
Not
it's
very
always
good.
been
Yeah.
not great, but that's
People are
sort of the
like,
story
I'm trying
of
to do
Windows.
this thing that's like the
Take
standard.
advantage of ignorance.
It's
I
like
don't know,
I'm
not
trying to-
really ignorance, just have good business where like you have a piece of software, you sell it like in a package, but like I don't know. Apple's like a few years ago, Apple like decided to step up their game with iPhone and stuff. So
Well, they have the Surface. and the
I've
Surface
used the
Book.
Surface. It's actually not great. I thought it was great until I used it, and then I was like,
It depends what
actually
you use
not
it
great.
for, and it depends who you are.
It's really confusingly designed. It's just another design thing. It's just like it wants to be a tablet and a laptop, which is interesting, but like
Hard to ball.
to do both, not really a use case for it. What I tell you was really interesting when I played around with Microsoft stuff was their wrist thing, the band.
Yeah, okay.
That was really interesting to use because that did one thing and it did it well, which was just like monitor your vital signs. And I applaud Microsoft for the band because even though I'm a hardcore Pebble user and would never go that way, if I didn't have the Pebble, I might think about it. Because it's much better than a Fitbit, even though I've never used a Fitbit.
I'm
And
waiting
it's
for
certainly not an Apple Watch.
I'm waiting for I've got a smartwatch. I don't want an Apple Watch, but like something a little bit in the future when it gets like a little bit more fancy.
Pebble time round.
I like the Apple Watch. I tried it
I've
for
never used
2
it.
days.
I'm sure it's great. I just
And it was
I wouldn't
like-
wear it ever.
It was useful. I don't wear anything.
Yeah, I normally.
I have a Pebble and I don't ever wear it. I haven't charged it in months. And I have another watch that I found at Yale that I use. But like,
Found it.
like, there's just, like, I don't have the reason to wear jewelry. I wear glasses because I can't see,
Yeah,
but that's about
yeah.
it. But I used the Apple Watch for a couple days, and I didn't have problems with it. It worked pretty well. It had some features that I would like to have.
Oh.
I like the idea. I like counting steps. The
Yeah, I like
Pebble
that too. My
does
phone
not
does
do
that
that very well.
No.
It can do it, but it's not very good.
My
Like
S6
my Pebble use is like very minimal though. So like things like the Apple Watch or the Moto 360 or any of that stuff. Well, I'm sure are great and work perfectly fine. Are just too advanced for my use case. Like my use case is like notifications on my wrist, time, and like emails
Yeah.
on my
Yeah.
wrist, and then like a timer, alarms. That's it. That's my use case. Anything more advanced than that,
So like I thought that was
Just
my
doesn't
use
fall
case.
into my-
I like the Pebble.
But then I realized that, like, I don't even get notifications ever. So I've gone, like, now I just use the Casio calculator watch. And, like, I barely even use the calculator function as it is. So it's really just, like, a time thing. Like, I just have the
Yeah,
time. But,
and before I lived, and music it controls my music. Before I lived my entire life without a watch. Never once. I tried getting into the habit of wearing watches. Never did.
yeah.
But like, and
I
so
wish
like
my
the time
Pebble
thing
did.
isn't even like super important to me. It's the notifications that really sell it, and that's all I need. So why would I get anything else?
if my media player worked with the Pebble, I would switch
Yeah.
to wearing it every day.
That sounds pretty easy.
Your media player doesn't work with the Pebble?
No, my media player is like a Chinese MP3 player
Oh,
that I
I see.
bought.
Oh, yeah.
The iPhone works, but like I don't have space on there. So like, if I could get it to work with it,
Yeah, that'd be worth it.
then it would be worth wearing.
See, all I have to do on Android is say Google Music. Google Play Music is my primary media player, and then Pebble just sends a request to the primary media player, and all Google Play Music does is it caches songs that I've played recently, and then deletes them if I haven't played them recently, and then as long as I'm in the Wi-Fi range, it plays them. Or I say specifically like, hey, these guys, keep them, because I like to listen.
But
to
you
them.
have to. It has to like be on their service.
Hmm?
Does the songs have to be on their service?
On Google Play.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to upload them to Google Play.
Because that's like the problem I have with like services is like I would use Spotify, but then I go to listen to a song on Spotify and it's like, oh, this song can only be listened to in like South Korea, but also we don't offer Spotify in South Korea, so you can't listen to it. But it's still here
Yeah, but
on
I
the
just
track
take my-
listing.
All I just do is take my music and upload it to Google Play Music.
Yeah, but then they have all your music. They have their grubby little hands on my
They know what you
binary
like
data.
now.
Like little raccoons.
Those precious ones and zeros.
Yeah.
They
I
got
need
my
those.
MP3
They'll
files.
realize that I stole them all from YouTube, which they already host themselves.
You give it right back.
Yeah, I have the YouTube DL Python scripts allegedly, and that just is all I need.
I use 4K video downloader for
Fancy.
Windows, yes.
I don't need that because I just have a script that I run.
But then you have to like, I don't know. The problem is
Every video downloader software I've ever used has broken or crashed in some way. It's just
well, the
a
one I
user crash.
use is I Google every time I want to download a song. I just Google YouTube MP3 and I click the first link and then I paste the song.
That's all you have to
That's
do.
my workflow.
It's like listen to YouTube.
But all I do is like, all right, here's a playlist.
And there's only a couple that support like Korean characters, so I have to choose those.
No, maybe that's it.
That's
Because
the
like
problem.
all I do is like I just go, I find a playlist, I find the URL of the playlist. The YouTube downloaders know how to deal with playlists. I just say /YouTube DL, pass it the thing, and I say like save MP3, and then I just point it to a folder and push enter, and then it
But like,
downloads
to get that
everything.
working on Windows would be like
Exactly. Like it works perfectly on Unix because it has open like lib, MP3 lib,
But I am
Black,
glad
whatever.
that now that I don't use my iPhone to listen to music, I don't have to use iTunes.
Hey, that's a plus.
Not because iTunes is necessarily bad, but it's just like a hassle when you have more than one computer. And
definitely.
yeah, I know we all just looked at the door, but don't worry about it. It's fine.
You looked at the door and then I looked.
Well,
at the
because he
door.
was looking at the door. Because like there was a noise, a feeling. Yeah,
A feeling.
I didn't
There was
sense
a
anything.
there
I
was
just
a
saw you
disturbance
guys.
in the force.
a feeling.
Yeah, I felt it.
Okay.